Hey, it's Hannah from Echo and Encourage. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1. Thank you so much for your patience with this getting out there. I am so excited to welcome Emilian Grigore to this episode. You are going to learn what it's like being a physician associate, a bit about dance, and about what it's like to own not 1, 2, 3, but 4 homes. I met Emilian and his lovely wife, Amy, back when we were students at Union College. So excited for you to get an inside scoop into this conversation. Thanks so much for listening. Welcome to the Echo and Encourage podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Abbott, and I am so excited to have Emilian Grigore come on the podcast today. Welcome, Emilian.
Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Emilian was born in Romania, moved to Spain when he was 10 years old, and moved to California at the age of 17. He ended up at Union College in Lincoln, Nebraska, where he met his beautiful wife, Amy. He became a physician assistant and now works in Lemoore, California. He likes to work on cars, houses, and anything else that involves using his hands. In the last year, he has also developed a passion for dancing salsa and bachata. So much fun.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Emilian, it was so much fun meeting you and Amy back in Union College days. I was actually in the pre-physician assistant program with you guys, and that was such an interesting and fun time for me. For anyone listening to this episode, check out the recent sermon that I had at his church, and we go into depth about that story. But Emilian, please share with us, to anyone who's interested in learning about becoming a physician assistant, also known as PA, what are some of the things that you love about it?
Sure. First of all, now, just as of about a year ago, they have changed their name to physician associates.
Oh.
But everybody still uses physician assistant. Nobody really knows what a physician associate is. So, having said that, to become a physician assistant, you do have to get a 4-year degree. Usually, most people do biology, chemistry, biochem, some sort of health science or general biology science. I was lucky enough to find a program in Lincoln, Nebraska, Union, called International Rescue and Relief, with an emphasis in pre-professional studies, either pre-med or pre-PA. And what that allowed me to do was not only just get my general classes, so general chemistry, biology, microbiology, and biochem, and all those other fun classes, as well as get some more hands-on experience through getting EMT certification, so emergency medical technician, as well as get some other courses like how to place IVs, how to do sutures, and then as well as going out to Colorado for 5 weeks, and we did some search and rescue training, as well as swiftwater rescue, rope rescue. So we're out in the woods and doing scenarios, how we would save people in those things. And then for our last semester of our college, we would go to a third world country. For us, my wife Amy and I, we went to Nicaragua. Other kids have gone to Honduras, they've gone to Venezuela, they've gone to Malawi. So just depending on the year is where you go. But we were there for 3 months, and then we do a little bit of firefighting, we do clinical hours, we do some nonprofit work, and then just a lot of we try to go to the hospitals and learn from the doctors there, nurses, and we just kind of do a little bit of everything. We also help build the school and just whatever were needed, but it made it a little bit less daunting to just be in class, 8 hours a day, studying biology, studying chemistry, and just like 4 years of that and no real tangible, one-on-one person experience on the healthcare. So for Amy and I, we were both in the same program, and we had seen probably hundreds of patients before we actually entered the PA profession, the PA program, because of the opportunities we had in school. So I would encourage anybody, if you're looking to become a PA, if you're looking to become a doctor, a speech language pathologist, a physical therapist, a dentist, whatever it may be, find a program. I'm not going to tell you just go to Union College because that'll be great, but find a program that allows you to have interactions with patients even before you get to that program, because it is very important to see, is this something that I like? We had many people that will come through like, I want to be a doctor, and then they will start like interacting with patients and like, don't really like that aspect of it. Maybe they like more the management of it, or they like other aspects. They maybe just, wanted to do something else completely. But having that interaction with the patient very early on, either through volunteer opportunities or through school, allows you to have a better idea, like, hey, is this what I want to do?
That is really good insight.
Yeah.
I think the IRR program at Union College is so unique. I haven't really heard of that, especially within the Seventh-day Adventist schools that a lot of us have gone to. I know I went to Union with you and then ended up at Andrews University and then Public College, University of Nebraska.
So there are a couple other options, not quite the same, but they have some similarities. I know there's a program at PUC that offers some of these search and rescue classes as well. There's something at Southern. I know they have a more of a master's program that has to do with search and rescue as well as nonprofit organizational like work, and how that would, kind of mission work, how you would do that. Nothing quite as specific and geared as a Union College. Kind of backtracking a bit, when I first went to Union, I actually went there I wanted to do pre-med. I didn't know what PA was, so I was like, I'm gonna go do pre-med. Through whole stages of moving around, wanting to go to different colleges, God just took me to Union, and maybe we'll have a podcast about how I even got to Union. But once I got to Union and I went to do pre-med, I started taking the classes, and then I kind of got a little bit discouraged because I realized that it was going to be a long road ahead. So 4 years of college, if you do everything really well and you get all the good grades, and then you take your MCAT, and then you hopefully get into a medical school, and then another 4 years of medical school, and hopefully you get really good grades, and then you impress the right people. So that way, whenever you have to apply for residencies, the day of atonement, the match day comes, and then you hope that you're amongst one of those people that are matched somewhere, and hopefully the specialty that you want. Because most people maybe don't understand, but like as a doctor, once you're in a specialty, you're kind of in the specialty, unless you want to go through the whole shebang all over again to reapply to residency and go through, being a first year resident, second year resident. You're stuck where you are. Right. Rarely do you kind of get out. So I was getting very discouraged. I'm like, do I really want to spend, the next 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 3 to 5 years of residency, maybe fellowship to be 40 years old to then practice medicine. So I told this idea of doing nursing. So for a hot second there, I was taking classes to do a double major in nursing and IRR. And then the more I started, I had met Amy at that point. We were just classmates, and she told me about like, oh yeah, I'm just doing pre-PA, and I'm like, what is PA? And like, oh, physician assistant. I have no idea what that is. Just explain it to me, because like, oh, you know what a nurse practitioner is? Like, no, I do not know what that is either. So she explained to me, it's like, well, it's not quite a nurse, not quite a doctor, somewhere in between. You can prescribe, see your own patients. You still have a supervising physician on top of you, but you have quite a bit of freedom. And I'm like, wow, okay, so what does that entail? It's like, oh, 3 years after college, and then pass your test and you're good. I'm like, wow, that sounds very interesting. So quickly after that, I decided to change my emphasis. Luckily, all the classes I had taken really, worked out, so I didn't really have to take any extra classes. But that's how I decided to stay in the PA route. And honestly, I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably do the same. Even though I don't like school. I hate school. Like I hate reading. I'm a very visual person. Like if you make me do things with my hand, I'll learn really well. But just sitting in class and listening and trying to read, and I'm just like kind of an undiagnosed ADHD person here, so very hard for me to focus. But I honestly, God led me through it. And then there's a lot of trials and tribulations, but made it here. And I mean, praise God. If it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't be here. But He just, through twists and turns and 180 degrees and then 360 back the same way, and then going, like, we made it here. And I praise God that that's the way he brought me.
Yes, this is so beautiful. And you and your wife are both PAs, which is awesome. I can relate to the joy of being in a diverse field. So as a speech language pathologist, there's so many areas that you can treat and diagnose, like voice, communication, swallowing, all sorts of things. So you're never bored. And that's great about being a PA, that you can work in a lot of different settings with a diverse population, and you're not having to do a bunch of more years of study or residencies to be able to work with those populations.
Yeah, and it's I mean, you could be a family medicine provider by day. You could be a ER provider by night. You could do dermatology on the side. You could do, go and do surgery. It is all based on your finding a job where there's an opening, and then the willingness of those providers to teach you what they do. But they understand that unless they teach you, you're not going to know. So there's no, of course they would like to find someone that already knows the subject matter, but they a lot of times like to get people that come from different areas or new grads, because then they can mold them the way they want their practice to run. So there's not that animosity towards like, oh, we're going to hire someone that doesn't know how to helping surgery. Like, it's okay, it's going to take a few months of training, but people that are skilled, they will learn quickly and they'll adapt. And I mean, I always think that a few months worth of practical learning equates to multiple years of book learning. It's very we go through school, 12 years of primary education and secondary, and then we go through college and all these things. And I think a lot of the things, if we were to put those books away and actually put kids in a real life situation to try to teach them, I mean, math, like, hey, finances, how do you do this, rather than like, all right, let's study quadratic equations and let's try to study trigonometry and algebra, and but if we were to just get out of the classroom and put those things out in real world, I think it'd be so much easier, because all of a sudden you have to do it to survive, and you have to like learn it, and once you do it, it sticks in your brain rather than trying to learn from a book and a theoretical base. So it's the same thing with PA. Like, I mean, of course, it's for us, it's 3 years. There's shorter programs, 2.5 years, but you can only learn so much, right? And that's why medical school is only 4 years. You can only learn so much. You still have to go 3 to 5 years for residency. But your real learning begins once the classroom ends. Once you start in your PA profession, you go into see your first patient by yourself, that's where your learning begins. And then you come out of your patient's room and you're like, oh, let me Google everything and up to date, making sure that, like, do I remember this right? Was it this medication, or what is this diagnosis? You consult with your fellow providers, nurse practitioners, PAs, doctors. You call your supervising physician, and that's where the real, guess what? The next day, if you see a patient just like that, you have that information in the back of your mind. Hey, I did it for this patient. Is it a similar situation enough where I can use the same treatment, or should I modify it to? I love that about PA. Speech language pathology is the same thing. I mean, we refer kids to speech therapists all the time, either because they're having a hard time learning how to speak. They're 2-3 years old, 4 years old, they're barely saying any words. People that have a hard time balancing or remembering things, so we, and all those things. I know there's like subspecialties within the speech pathology genre. Physical therapy, same thing. I mean, we send people, geriatric, pediatrics, like a neuro type of, or like muscular. There's so many different, sometimes you just say like, oh, you're a doctor, or you're a X, or you're a Y, but there's so many things that you can be doing within that small category of people, right? Yes. That it's like completely, it's like, no, I don't see those patients. Like, I don't have any experience, I'll have patients that comes like, hey, I'm about to have a baby. I'm like, yeah, you don't want to see me. I'm not an OB. Like, I'll make sure you're not dying, but we got to refer you out to an OB, because I'm not training that. I wish I had more experience, but, I delivered a baby once, but that's about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, came out good, it was good. Yay. Didn't drop it.
That's so fun. Okay, I love how there's so much that we can all do in our fields within PA, speech language pathology, physical therapy, occupational therapy. There's so much. Yeah. So we picked good fields.
Yes. And yes. I mean, it's, when we went to college, we actually were taking some of the same classes together. And, unfortunately, you had to leave us pretty
Right.
pretty early on, but
That's
you came
right.
back, and then just for the audience,
Yeah.
we were never close. I mean, we knew of each other. Hannah just reminded me that was one of the people that before we even started at college, I sent her a message. It's like, hey, I'm gonna be in your class. I just
Yeah.
try. Again, coming from California, I didn't know anybody in Nebraska, and I think at that point you didn't really know many people either.
Right.
So we were all just communicating through Facebook, through our freshman class, and we were only together for a little bit in the same classes, but then she came back, and we always ended up in the same places. We had common friends together. There would be church activities that we get together. Her dad's pastor at a church nearby. I went and sang there a few times. We were never close though. Nothing wrong with that. We're acquaintances, just
Right.
not close friends. There's 1,000 people at the school, right? So it's like, hard to be best friends with everybody there.
That is right.
But God does great things, and years, decade later, we're here, and we're actually, we become very close. Hannah, myself, my wife, a bunch of our friends, and now we're really, I would consider you a very close friend, and it's been a pleasure and really a blessing to reconnect after this many years of like really not having seen each other, and over the last year and a half or so we've really become much closer, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I am so thankful for Emilian and his wife. For those of you on our YouTube session, you're about to see the cortado that he made me. So I've been enjoying visiting. Hang on, let me take a sip of the cortado.
All right, she needs a little bit of the energy today.
Delicious. I had 2 of these yesterday. So Amy and Emilian are beautiful, sweet, precious friends of mine, and I am so happy to be visiting them for the weekend. And I brought my dogs, they've got their dogs, and we've had so much fun between ministry.
Yes,
I was so
amen.
happy to preach at your church yesterday. That was so fun to share that testimony.
Guys, look it up. Lemoore SDA YouTube channel. Okay, it's January 27th. It was beautiful. Just it's on the live stream there. Let's just say there's a lot of tissues, being spread around. We're running out of Kleenex for people to use. It was a lot of healing and a lot of beautifuln's going on in the church, and people want to see her back. So please write your comments, tell her to come back and preach for us again. And I know people want her back already, but go to that channel and then watch that video, spread it, because it was really a beautiful message.
Oh, thank you, Emilian. We'll put that link in the description of this. And besides ministry, we are all enjoying as friends learning how to dance.
Yes,
So
yes.
I am a healthcare traveler right now in San Luis Obispo, and I am learning how to dance. I have my dance journey with Nexus Ballroom. We meet in the lower level of the Slow Public Market. And Emilian and Amy are taking lessons. Where are you taking lessons?
Patty's studio in Hanford, and we're our teachers are Carlos and Bianca Cervantes. They've been teaching us for just over a year now. They were new when they first started, but man, let me tell you, they're just great teachers. They just you can see someone growing through their teaching styles, and they had a hard job to try to train this people. And Hannah knows this. We kind of grew up in a in a Christian, more conservative Christian view. And growing up, I think there's just this culture of like, you don't really dance, right? So either because of X reason or Y reason, it's just in our Christian culture, you didn't really dance. Especially me, I grew up in a Romanian Adventist culture. Romanians are traditionally Orthodox. The Orthodox religion is very traditional, very conservative. So the Romanian Adventists, I'm Seventh-day Adventists, they tend to be even more traditional and conservative than probably the rest of the Adventist community in the world. So it was just a no-no, the dancing part, right? So just never really danced till just about a year ago in January. So just been about a year with dancing, and man, was I stiff. And I mean, I'm still stiff, don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying I'm the best right now, but there's definitely been a night and day difference between what happened a year ago to where we are now. I mean, there are times when we just wanted to quit because it's just not working out, but we're having the time of our lives. And not just that, we've met some beautiful people.
Yes.
And Hannah can attest to this, some of our friends here, that you don't know what you're missing
Right.
until you find those people. And
Yes.
I have friends all over the world, multiple continents, and they're to say best friends, and still keeping contact. But moving here to Lemoore, we had some friends, and it wasn't like, but it was just hard. It was different stages of life. Some of them married and have kids, and once you have kids, it's hard. Like, kids have to go to bed at 7 or 8. They have to take their nap, they have to do this and they have to do that, and even though we still hang out, and still hang out now, still hang out then, it just became harder and harder, and we just felt like we didn't really have that community. The young adult population, our church, that's our church, they're very nice people, and we have had multiple of the church member kind of take us in as more like their children than anything else. But they're just an older population, so it's some of the things that we do, it's not something that they're necessarily interested in. Not that they hate it, it's just it's just different. So we were looking for, at least me, I was yearning for having those people that were our age and similar interests and stuff. And I didn't know how, I would dare to say, sad, maybe depressed, or just maybe unhappy. I was, because I've always been a cheery person, so I just try not to think of the sadness and really indulge in that. So I just try to keep myself up until I really met this group of friends, and we started going dancing together, and then slowly, little by little, month by month, we added more and more people to that dance group. And not that we were just dancing together, but we were creating memories together. And then all of a sudden we started noticing how every day we're exchanging messages like, hey, how are you doing? Like, I saw you're a little bit like maybe sick yesterday. Do you need anything? Hey, let's stop by. We're gonna bring you some tea. We're gonna bring you something. Like, hey, you're sick. Well, here's some flowers. Hey, let's send you a card. Like, hey, and mind you, a lot of us live 30 to 45 minutes away from each other, so it's not just like next door neighbor. Here's some food. Like, it's a trek. People are driving 45 minutes to make sure that you're okay, to visit you, and it just shows that. A lot of times as Christians, like, oh, you gotta find Christian friends or Adventist friends to like really be, but it shows you how, like, people out there, they're yearning to have someone that cares for them, and they're yearning to have someone to care for, and then to have that reciprocated. And man, it's just been a blessing, and how we're all somewhat looking for the same thing. And then the more we talk, the more we get to know each other, the more we realize that we're all in a similar place in life, and maybe we just don't quite say it, but we're looking for a higher power out there that loves us, and we're just looking for what that higher power wants from us. And we're all on a different journey on where we are with that, and how we worship that majestic being, but we're all on that journey. And yeah, I mean, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing, and I mean, there's been a lot of crying and getting to know each other. And again, Hannah can attest to this, because we've been having a lot of conversations with our friends, but it's been. I mean, I can't praise God enough for what He's been doing for us over the last year. Even our church members, they're like, hey, like, they kind of found out we're dancing, and they came to some of our birthday parties, like, hey, since you guys started dancing, you guys look so much happier. And like, your friends, your dancing friends are just such good quality people.
Yes.
It just says a lot, I mean, having that sort of response, it just says a lot that, like, they are good quality people.
Yes, such good quality people. And I think that throughout the Bible, Jesus modeled just having relationships, friendships with a variety of people. Not everybody thought exactly like him.
Yeah.
Not everybody looked exactly like him, walked exactly like him. He just loved diversity, and he loved friendships. And I think that the Latin dance community is so good at being so loving, accepting, and supportive on everybody's personal growth journey, and open oftentimes to the spiritual growth journey too, which is so neat. And I was so blessed to meet your dance friends, and I think now's a good time to say thank you to Nexus Slow for sponsoring this episode of the Echo and Encourage podcast. So Nexus Slow is located in the lower level of the Slow Public Market, and there are dance classes all the time. We've got Latin dancing, West Coast swing, ballroom, Argentine tango, country, all sorts of dancing, and a lot of fun upcoming events. We also have monthly US nights for the community to come together, and we have a great time outside of just dancing. So we went out to get some coffee one day. We had a karaoke night.
Awesome.
I had so much fun with that. And we also had a vision board, dream board planning night. So look out for those fun community events. And our dance communities are about to collaborate on March 2nd at Nexus Slow, where your teachers are coming to teach for an hour, and then we'll have social dancing for the community to celebrate season 2 of the Echo and Encourage podcast. Praise the Lord.
Hey, there you go. Hey guys, if you're in the area, or even if you just feel like traveling a bit, March 2nd, what time?
So I believe the class will be at 7 to 8, and then social dancing after that.
Perfect. So it'll just be a night to remember. So if you're around, come. We'd love to have you. It's gonna be great. Hannah just graciously sponsored this and invited my teachers to be there, and it's gonna be great. I mean, we're trying to bring people from here to join us there, so we can just kind of get this two dance communities. I know we're about like an hour and 45 minutes away from each other, but it's really not that far in the whole grand scheme of things. And we always love to just meet new people through dancing, and just like you were saying. Jesus hung out with all kinds of people, right? Tax collectors, everybody hated them, right? Like fishermen, I mean, they probably didn't smell great, and all kinds of people from all kinds of different walks of life. And then, same with us. I mean, I'm a PA, my wife is a PA, but then we have, a couple of our friends are teachers, the admin in the educational area. We have people that work in agriculture, like managing fields and worrying about that. People working just regular jobs, people working at dance studios, people are doing all kinds of different things, and we all come together. And it's interesting because we every week, I mean, not quite every week, but at least a couple times a month, we go out dancing, and we see these people. A lot of times you see the same people over and over, and then you dance with them and you say hi, and then maybe you exchange your name, and maybe you have them friends on Facebook, but you're not really close because it's you 5-minute dance. You can't really talk too much. You're worried about making sure you don't mess up because you want the girls to enjoy the dance. But there's these snippets of like, hey, let's talk for a bit. Or like, hey, let's go out. Like last night we went out to In-N-Out, like at 1:30 in the morning.
We had your dance ballroom owner. Is it a ballroom or is it a dance studio?
Dance studio. Yeah.
Your dance studio owner. We had people from the dance
community
night
there, yeah, and we just started talking, and all of a sudden one of the other guys, and we had met him before, but we never really got to talk to him. But he's like, hey, is it okay if we pray before we eat? And it wasn't us that asked. They were like, sure, let's pray. And then we started eating, and then he started sharing his testimony. There are kind of a couple groups there, and then on my side, we're sharing our testimony, and our dance teacher and teachers and owner, they're sharing their testimonies, and we're talking about religion and God and days of worship and all these things, and you're just like, we're just out dancing.
Yeah.
And we're just eating In-N-Out. For those of you that maybe not in California, or we're In-N-Out, it's a good burger place.
It was my first time going to In-N-Out, and it reminds me of Lecrae's line.
Yeah.
When I'm in Cali, gotta In-N-Out it.
So, it just shows that people are craving God. Not just that, but they're craving sharing about God. And it was such a beautiful thing last night that we were able to just hang out and talk about God and share how God has been in our life, and how he's taken out of us some bad places and brought us where we are. And then now we're enjoying dancing, something that I always grew up thinking it's such a secular thing. And it's like, you usually growing up, you think of like just going to the club and trying to get girls with your dance and stuff. But once you get into, especially in my opinion, line dancing, I haven't had much exposure to other type of dancing, like line dancing or West Coast swing or other stuff. But like the line dance community is like, you go out there and you dance, and it's not about any sort of like the moves or whatever, but it's about just enjoying the beauty of the dance, the beauty of the art.
Yes.
And after you finish dance, you hug your partner that you dance with, you thank them for how great they did and how you want to just dance with them again. And then you split ways, and then maybe a few songs later or the next week or the next month you dance again. And just this beautiful camaraderie of just getting together. And yeah, I just never thought that was a possibility. I just always saw it like growing up. I was, it's just such a like taboo thing to talk about. It's such a, but it's been awesome for us. And the more we, my wife and I have been kind of this year, we're like, our mission is to really share God through dancing.
Yes.
And really like not just be passive, like, yeah, I'm Christian, and I do good things,
Right.
but I also dance. Just be more mindful about like bringing God into our conversations, and then just letting God do the rest. Not be pushing, like, hey, you gotta come to our church. Hey, you
Right.
gotta do this. Like, no, just like, this is our experience. If you want to join us, good. If not, we're still gonna be your best friend. And just, but we want to be more intentional about sharing God through everything we do, right? With our patients at work, through dancing, through everything else that we do. But,
Yes. I think that is such a beautiful way to minister to people in the community, and it's so creative. And growing up with, I've been in a lot of different church, conferences, Ohio, Michigan, Hawaii, Nebraska, Florida,
Everywhere.
a lot, New Mexico. And so you see the different cultures. So growing up in Hawaii, our community service at Hawaiian Mission Academy was to learn traditional hula dancing.
Beautiful.
And Japanese dancing. And that was my first, real exposure to the art of dance. And I really enjoyed learning a lot about that it's a beautiful form of art, like you said,
Yes.
and that God made our bodies, and we're supposed to rejoice and celebrate life and his love and goodness, and the way we carry ourselves and the way that we move can be an expression
Yes.
of honoring him. And I don't think everyone can see the beauty yet of how we can honor him through dance, but
Yeah.
I think that more people are open to learning about it. And I think that the way that we do dance and the way that we express ourselves through that is also a beautiful testimony of just without even words, just living
Yeah.
joyfully and in an honoring way. And the other thing was that I wanted to say, when I think about Jesus in the Bible, he didn't just go out and say, everybody stop what you're doing right now and like do a cold call or like just start preaching like the hardest topic in the world, right?
Yeah.
For 30 years, he was a carpenter, right?
And part of the community.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he was getting to know people and just doing life with them and just having fun building those friendships. And I think that one of the easiest ways to make friendships and build community is through dance.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, just look, I wasn't necessarily ecstatic about dancing. It was actually a birthday present for my wife. It was like, hey, she wanted to do this, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this for a month. And I was like, oh, it's a month. We'll be over it, and then she'll love it, and then we're gonna move on. But here we are, a year and a month later, we're still doing it. But if it's not dance, if you try it and that's not your thing, that's okay.
Right. It's okay.
You like doing game nights, board games.
Right.
You like going racing cars. You
Right.
want motorcycles. You want like hiking. You want to do surfing. Whatever it is, it's not about the activity itself. Is how you use that activity to show, even without words, to people that you're a Christian and that you're a God-fearing person. You don't have to say it. And like sometimes the words are the least effective way. Not sometimes, most of the time, the words are the least effective way to bring someone to Christ. Is really, someone should know that you're a Christian without you ever having to say the name of Christ.
Right.
And whatever you do, I mean, for us, it's been dancing for the last year and hopefully for the future. But it can be anything. It can be anything, and that's why I try to encourage you guys is just find that community. Maybe where you are, maybe there's not a dancing community, maybe not even like line dancing or anything. Maybe there's just not there, and like I'm not gonna have you move across the world to just find a dancing community.
Right.
But there's probably other things that people like to do.
Yes.
Right. So
Like you do car racing.
Yeah.
We went to you and our other friends' soccer game yesterday
Yes.
with a lot of community members all the way in Fresno, right?
yes.
Or Visalia.
Visalia, yeah.
Visalia was the soccer game,
Then
and Fresno was
dance, yes.
the dance night. So we've been all around California in the last little bit, and the sermon was in Lemoore.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So, right, you've got that. I love scuba diving, and
So do I.
Oh,
So do
you
I.
do. Wow.
Yes.
The next episode, we are going to be filming underwater.
And there you go.
Just
With
kidding.
me, a full face mask, a lot of oxygen, because
Yeah.
but we'll do it.
Yes, there's so many different hobbies, activities, ways
Yeah.
that people can celebrate life and celebrate joy, and I think that they can be so creative with that. And that's awesome. Another topic that I wanted to touch on, Emilian, and share with our listeners is that you and Amy have so much wisdom when it comes to investing in homes and to having that as a stream of income.
Sure.
Will you please share with us a bit about that, your journey, and for anyone who's interested in doing the same
Yeah.
thing and making money off of investing in a home?
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of going a little bit back to how we even got to the investing in homes. I grew up in I would say, middle to lower class family. I mean, my parents never made more than minimum wage until, pretty much even now. But they're avid savers. So in order to be able to invest, you have to save. That's just kind of investing 101. People say like, oh, use other people's monies, but that's just increasing risk, right? So sure, you can use other people's money and you may make a lot of money, but you also may not only lose your money, but you're losing other people's money. So the first step of investment is saving. So growing up, I just remember I was like a little kid, 10, 11, 12 years old, and there's just a place where I would put my little coins, like 1 year or 2 years. I lived in Europe, so just a couple years here, a couple years there, cents, bills, and all these things. And my brother, he got paid pretty well, but you get in Europe, you get paid once a month, so you got to make that check count, right? So like if you're not wise with your money, a couple weeks in, you're left with nothing because there's not another check coming in 2 weeks. You get your whole, whatever it is, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 euros. It's just all comes all at once. So you got to just make it work for the whole month, which could be great or it could be really bad if you're not good at managing your money. But my brother at times was not great at managing his money, but he would. Every time I would see him, like, oh, here's 50 cents, go buy yourself something. Hey, here's an euro. No, he was very generous. He wasn't like he is a great brother, but he would also just spend money on things. And then, 2-3 weeks in, he wouldn't have any more money. So he would just come and ask me like, hey, do you have $5? Do you have $10? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, I'll give you more when I get paid. So, it's just kind of a, very heavily inflated interest loan. But, he just did it because he loved me, and he would just, I would give him $5. He'd give me $7 or $10 back, a few weeks later. And it worked out for me. But I grew up like my mom, like she took care of all our necessities, right? I can't say we always had food. We always had shelter. We always had clothes, maybe not the best clothes, but we had clothes. My parents did great for us. Did I have I wanted a bike. I had to walk miles every day to go to school, to go here or there. We couldn't afford a bike, so I just had to walk. And I just remember just really asking my mom for it, and she's like, we just can't afford it. And I'm like, okay, I understand. My parents were always very open about our financial situation. I always knew okay, on their money, go. We had certain businesses, and I was always very aware, and even as a little kid, very understanding. If she said hey, we just don't have the money, and if she would explain it to me, I would understand, okay, we're just not, we can't do it. So my mom was like, you want a cell phone? Well, you gotta save and buy yourself a cell phone. And I saved the whole summer. I would work at a restaurant and just putting the tables out on the terrace and putting it back and all these things, and saving money for my brother, my sister, and my dad, and all these things. And then I bought myself a cell phone. And I just remember few weeks, maybe a couple months later, my brother's cell phone broke, and he needed one because he was working. And my mom was like, well, you got to give your cell phone to your brother because he actually needs it. You know, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, like it is what it is. You know, like I'm a kid. Like I was 12 years old. I didn't really need a cell phone. You know, so, but kind of moving from there, I came to the U.S. After being in Spain, and I started in high school, junior high school, and senior, and then like I started getting into the very like consumerism type of lifestyle, going from saving everything to just kind of like, you know, being in Southern California, hey, let's go out to eat Macaroni Grill and Cheesecake Factory and go to the beach and go here and go there. And like, you know, like I'm trying to save the money, but at the same time, I'm spending most of it because everybody's just, let's go to the movies and let's go, you know, not really making the wisest decision, but that's because everybody around you is not making the wisest decisions, right? Then I ended up in college I started with a credit card and hey, like, I gotta buy a couple things for school that's not covered by FAFSA and this and that, and you know have to pay a little bit here, a little bit there. Well, I want to buy some gear for my things that I'm doing, and slowly racking up debt and debt and debt, and it came to the point where as I graduated college, I had about $10,000 in credit card debt, and it was just, I mean, nothing to show for it. Sure, some of it was I had to pay some school bills that just weren't covered by the student loans, but a lot of it was just things that didn't matter, things that I could have gone without, you know, things that I was very regretful to buy, and I just jumped on the bandwagon, you know, just to buy those things. And my wife and I were about to get married, so I just, you know, told her like, hey, this is what's the financial situation. And I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore, but like I want to take care of it. Praise God, He helped me be able to pay all that debt before we got married, because I wanted to start our marriage with a clean slate. I mean, of course, we had thousands and thousands of dollars worth of student loans, but just as a credit card debt, we just wanted to start it free. So I would, even through college, I would buy cars, fix them up, sell a motorcycle, same thing, you know, do a couple things, clean them up. A lot of times people just, you know, want to get rid of a car. Maybe they just don't want to clean it. It's all dirty, it's just nasty. If you spend a few hours with some elbow grease, vacuuming, cleaning it, maybe changing a couple things, tires, you know, windshield wipers, fixing a couple things, you can sell and make a profit. It takes time. You gotta, you know, learn how to do it. And but I mean, nowadays YouTube, you can YouTube anything, everything, right? I mean, when I was younger and I started doing this, it was mostly like forums. So like looking through pictures and what people are saying and reading and trying to figure out, and you know, it was like now it's, you can see someone exactly doing exactly what you have to do. So if you can follow steps, you can do it, right? So I just started doing this. God gave me a lot of good deals over a short period of time. So I was able to buy, sell, and make a good profit over a short period of time. And I was able to kind of get out of that credit card debt. And then we got married. You know, we're still not really making money. Amy started PA school. I didn't get into PA school the first time. So guys just know things that don't always work out. You know, we thought we both got to start, but we didn't. So I started working as a ER tech. So I was working in the emergency department. Pretty much glorified CNA, you know, just going around, you know, if people needed something, if the nurses needed help, if the doctors needed help, you know, with anything, sometimes cleaning rooms, sometimes helping them, you know, with holding, you know, like traction on a broken bone, or helping them put an IV in, or whatever they needed, I was there for them. So I worked. Amy went to school, second year, you know, Amy was still in school. I started school as well. So we were really not making money. We were living off student loans. But we finished, Amy graduated, I graduated. It took me a while to pass the test. Amy started working right away, but it took me about a year to pass the test. I took it 4 times. So the first 3 times, close, but didn't. 4th time was the charm for me. During that whole time, we were really not spending money. I mean, it was, of course, we had our house that we were renting, $1,000 a month. And other than that, I mean, I can pretty much tell you what our budget was under 3. It was like about $250 for gas, $250 for food. We rarely went out. We just ate at home, packed, you know, food from home. Because I was home for about a year, I would cook most of the time, and then, you know, we would have fresh cooked food. And that $250 on gas was also counting that, you know, a couple times a month we would drive down to Loma Linda, which is where our family lives, and about 4 hours from here. So we really didn't spend that much. And we would do a lot of stuff, but it was mostly free things like let's go hiking, let's go doing this, let's go to the lake, let's go, things that were free. Or we would travel very cheaply, like, hey, let's go visit our friends in Washington and just like take a trip, spend a couple $100 on gas, but we're staying at a friend's house and eating with them and, just having free fun. So we saved a lot of money through it. I mean, mind you, PAs, especially here in this area, we make good money. Okay, so praise God that we do, right? Not everybody can get to where we are with their income. You can, but it'll take longer, right? Yeah. Amy started in the 130s, right? Then I came in the 130s, $130,000 a year. So it's a big shovel to like save, to put into that hole and then, do something with it. But I have many friends who started out there around the same, salary, but they're buying brand new cars. They're buying brand new huge houses, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 homes because they're like, I deserve it. I make a couple $100,000 a year. Like, sure, you're going to be working for the rest of your life, and if you're okay with that, I'm nobody to judge, right? That's fine. But for us, we wanted to be, kind of subscribe a little bit more to the FIRE movement, but financial independence, retire early, but not that I don't know that I will ever fully retire, but we want to have the independence to choose, like, hey, do I want to work 5 days a week? Do I want to work 2 days a week and then just hang out the rest of the other? Or do I want to just take a couple years off and go and do a mission trip or like go and travel the world, and I at least have enough money to do those things, right? So it's not about like, I never want to work a day in my life. I love my job. But I also have so many other things that I love. I love cars. I love working on them. I love building houses, building things, and enjoying stuff with friends. So it's like, there's just so many other things that I love that I want time to do a little bit of everything. So working 40, 50 hours a week, 60 hours, 80 hours, some people work, doesn't allow me to take care of everything else. So for us, it's like, we're sacrificing now to buy time later.
Yes.
Right? But it's not really sacrificing, because I mean, just think, in college, you live on nothing, right? You like go to the calf, or you eat ramen noodles, or you eat whatever, like, and then most of your fun, you're trying to do it for free because you don't have money, right? So it's like, even if you spend a fraction more than you were spending in college, you're already living it up.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
so
right.
It's like you're already improving your lifestyle. You just don't skip steps. Like, have you ever heard of the, what is it called? Hedonic treadmill? Is that, or the hedonic ladder, I think it's called, where your level of happiness, whenever, let's just say you get a new toy, right? I just bought myself a new toy. I'm going to be, my happiness level is going to go to a 99% over, the next couple days, maybe 30 days. And then after that, it's going to go back to 50% where it was before, right? So if I'm driving a Toyota Corolla today, and tomorrow I buy a Ferrari, guess what? I'm going to be very, very excited. Very excited. How long do you think that excitement is going to last? Statistic-wise, they say about 30 days.
Yeah.
30 to 60 days. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to enjoy driving your Ferrari, but your level of happiness goes back to whatever your average is pretty quickly, within 30 to 90 days from moving that. So you're moving from a 300 square foot apartment to a 3,000 square foot house. How long do you think that's going to last? 3 months? 6 months? And then you're going to start seeing like, wow, I have to clean a lot. It's like a lot more maintenance and I have to pay more, right? So, there's going to be great things, but there's also, my point is the average happiness level, it decreases, right? So if you're skipping from level, imagine we're in a video game and there's like 100 levels and you're going from level 1 to level 15. Yeah, you're going to be very happy for 30 to 90 days, but then the happiness levels, and then you're already at level 15, which is, getting very close to level 99, right? What if you go level 2, level 3, go from a Toyota Corolla to a Camry to like, a few years later to a nicer, like a Lexus, and then a few years later you can to a nicer Lexus, right? So it's like every few years you improve your lifestyle, but by just a little bit. So you're still getting an improvement in lifestyle. You're still getting that happiness, that oxytocin, sorry, I was like, that dopamine release, but you're spreading out over a larger time rather than going from 0 to 100, and then all of a sudden, like, now what am I going to do?
Right.
Like, how much more than, you buy a Ferrari, now you buy a Bugatti, and then what else? Like, you're pretty much there. Like, you're going to buy a helicopter, you're going to buy, like, a 747 airplane, like, what do you do from there? Right? And then that's what happens with people that are like, all of a sudden they have all this money and they have everything, but they're not happy.
Right.
Because they've already accomplished everything they could ever accomplish. And it's like, now they're like, I'm going to buy an island. I'm going to buy a country. I'm going to buy Mars. You know, and it's like, what else? Like, you know, like buy Jupiter after that. Like, it's like your happiness level starts to decrease with the more. So not saying don't go up in like value and things that like I've improved. I don't drive a $1,000 car anymore. But, you know, I also don't drive a $50,000 car.
Right.
Right. I can afford it very comfortably, but I don't want to have car payments, and I also don't want someone to come and scratch my car and be like, "Oh wow, that's like a $50,000 car." Like, you know, like most of my cars, if someone comes and scratch them, I mean, it'll be a messed up day, but it'll be fine. Like, you know, like it's okay. You know, I can probably still sell the car for more than I bought them with because I got them at a good deal, right? So having said that, we decided we're slowly gonna, you know, have better things at home, but also try not to like, you know, go too hard. So we're just saving. So in 2020 March, we bought our first house.
Okay.
Rental house. I still hadn't passed my PA test at that point, so it was only Amy working. So she had been working for just over a year.
Did you need a first-time home buyer loan?
No, so we just got it with a conventional. We put 20% down. It was a very cheap house, $78,000.
What was the interest rate about?
Oh, at that point we got it for 3.3%.
Nice.
So pretty good. I mean, especially compared to now. But you know, after that, the interest rates went lower. But still, we're happy with it. So we had to put at that point, because we put 20% down and then pay all the closing fees, and then we had to have a little bit of extra money to actually pay for a renovation. We had to renovate it a bit. So we bought the house, $78,000. Not a great neighborhood, but we're like, it's okay. First time house. The house looked in good enough condition that with just some paint and just basic maintenance would look really good. But it probably ended up being about $25,000 to $30,000 when everything was done with all the paperwork and everything. I put that down, fixed it up. Took about 3 weeks to a month to kind of do everything that we wanted to do to it. Our mortgage payment was, it still is $367 a month for the house. I mean, again, it's a cheap house. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 800 square foot house in not a nice area. But guess what? People need cheap houses to live in as well, right? Not every house has to be rented for $3,000 because guess what? People can't afford that, right? So we rented the house to actually one of our coworkers for $800 a month, right? So people think like, wow, that, you know, like you're really charging these people, like, but it's like, first of all, nobody would be buying a house to rent it out if they're not going to make some money. So, you know, that's the part of entrepreneurship. Like, people are upset at landlords because like, well, they're charging rent. It's like, yeah, but they have to not only pay for the house, for the mortgage, they have to pay for because they're using their money, because they could just put it in the stock market and they get 10% return on their investment and just never worry about it and not have to deal with tenants and fixing things and plumbing and electrical, right? And then also, guess what? Every time a tenant moves out, gotta repaint, gotta clean the house, gotta, you know, fix things that they broke. Sometimes, you know, even with deposits, they break a lot more than what you charge them for a deposit. And like, sure, you can technically try to charge them, but if they don't want to pay, what are you gonna do? Sue someone for $500 or $1,000? Like, you just kind of count your losses. It's gonna cost you more to sue them than like you're gonna recover. So you have to take all that into consideration. So we had a coworker lived there for about a year and a half, $800 a month, and then we had another coworker live there for $1,000 a month for the next year, and now we're renting it at $1,100 a month, and we have someone there with our lease for 2 years. So it's already been a year. They have another year left on the lease. This was March. November, we bought our second home. Again, mind you, we're still going crazy on saving because we're just like, no, we're just going to save and just keep buying houses, keep buying houses. So we're enjoying life. We're having fun. I mean, we're still hanging out with friends and we're still traveling, but not just going to 5-star hotels and eating at, Michelin rated, restaurants and stuff. So we're just, having a good life. So in November, we bought our second house that we actually thought we were going to like move in and stay there for a while. We knew it wasn't going to be our house that we were going to end up there for a long time, but at least a couple of years. So we bought it $175,000. We made an offer. They had a 185. They initially didn't want to accept it, but eventually they accepted the offer. It took about 3 to 4 weeks for a renovation that we had. We could have moved in, but again, we wanted to rip out some carpets and fix up. There's nice wood flooring underneath that just needed to be sanded and repolished and recoated and stuff. But so, Amy will attest to this. She hated sanding that floor. She hated it. She's like, I never want to sand the floor again. But it ended up really, really nice. And we repainted and did couple upgrades and redid the kitchen and stuff. And it's a beautiful looking house. So we did that. We had to install an AC because he didn't have one. He had a heater, and then he had a evaporator cooler, swamp cooler, but of course that here in this area gets really hot, 110 degrees in the summer. So you need an AC.
Triple digits.
Yeah.
Did you put 20% down for this one too?
Yes,
Same type of way you went about the
conventional
first
loan. Yes. So you could, when it's your own house, you could do an FHA loan, which it means you could put anywhere from 0 to 5%. I mean, you could go as far as 20%, but the problem with going anything under 20%, even on a conventional loan, is that you get what's called PMI, protective mortgage insurance or something like that, right? So, and you pay, whatever, 20, 50, $100 based on your mortgage is some sort of percentage, but you pay $100 to $200 a month for something that doesn't do anything for you. I mean, it's just a fee that the bank charges you pretty much to assure that, like, if you were to stop paying and let's just say that you don't have enough equity in the house for them to auction it off and at least get their money back, it's just an insurance for them to be like, well, at least we charge enough people and only like 2 people, default on their mortgage. So I know a lot of people that want to progress really quickly through buying houses. They buy houses with as little money down as possible, and then they use that money to like buy another house and another house and another house. And sure, when things go well, that's a really good way to really expedite your growth. But what if things start going south? Right? It only takes one house for the tenant to stop paying to destroy the house, and then all of a sudden, like, what if you can't find a tenant to go in? What if you have to default on that? What if the house now, like, let's just say it's a 2008 all over again, right? And your house value goes down by 20, 30, 40%. And then not only that they're going to auction off the house, but you're going to have a negative equity in there. So then they're going to still go after you for whatever, right? So my point is, there's a risk versus reward benefit assessment that you have to do. And for us is, we wanted to be aggressive on like saving and buying these houses, but we wanted to be fairly risk conservative,
right?
Meaning that, like, hey, even if the market goes down by at least 20%, we still have enough equity in the house to, if we have to sell it, we're not going down into negatives. Not just that, but we have, for every house, we save minimum of 6 months of mortgage payments, plus extra for big expenses like, hey, roof fell out, got to fix it, 10, 20 grand, whatever it is, right? And that's what's hard. The more houses you have, the more it takes to get to that, like, oh, another 20%, another 20%, another. And then once you have enough houses, the bank will actually ask you, not only that you have to have enough money for the down payment, 20 or 25% based on the bank, they'll say you also have to have like 6 months of emergency saving for each one of your properties.
Okay.
As a saving. So let's just say if you're 20, you need $80,000 to put down for the house, but you have 4 other houses. They're like, yeah, but we need you to have another $50,000 in the bank. So really, you need $130,000 in the bank in order to be able to buy this house.
Okay.
Just because they want to make sure that you're not just gonna like buy 100 houses and then default on all of them, and then they're stuck with the bill, right? So we bought this second house, fixed it up, we moved in. This was December, so we had already rented. Mind you, the first house we just rented it out. We were still in our rent. We were just renting from someone. We moved into this new house, and then just a few months later, I saw this house that we're sitting in right now. It's a farmhouse, 18 acres, not a huge house, 1,600 square feet, but it has a big garage, 1,000 square foot garage. It's fenced in about 5 acres, and then we have a lot of other area around. And I like saw it, and I told Amy, I texted her, like, what do you think about this? She's like, I don't want to move. We just moved. Like we still had boxes in the garage that we hadn't. I know it had been about 6 months, but like we still hadn't unpacked everything. She's like, I don't want to move again. And I'm like, okay, I understand. Nobody likes moving, but what do you think of the house? Like, just forget about moving. What do you think of the house? Still a little more, just a little bit on the outskirts. It's just like, it's really nice. I really like it. So they're asking $500,000, and sounds like a lot for some people, but for other people, it's not. And
right.
And for us, it was really good. Mind you, for our last house, our interest rate was 2.75%.
Okay.
Right. So for this one, it was actually went down. It was we got it at 2.625%. So
nice.
Really good. But we're like, okay, let's go for it. So we told our real estate agent, hey, let's make an offer. And then she contacts the other real estate agent. They're like, oh, the owner decided to take it off the market. He doesn't want to sell.
Oh.
This is all within 3 hours of seeing the house.
Oh, wow.
So the house was out on the market for 3 hours. They took it off. It was nowhere to be found. But real estate agent said, like, hey, we can still put an offer. I mean, They can just decline. They may just not even answer, but we can send them a letter, right? So we decided to put in an offer, and then after negotiating, they decided to sell it.
Wow.
So we were the only people that pretty much sold the house, because it was only on the market for 3 hours. And then we were able to make an offer and decide. And the old owners left us a bunch of stuff, like, that we could use, a generator, a bunch of things that I'm still finding now that are very useful. And they did a really good job building this house. But it was just a blessing. I mean, we could never, because we knew we always wanted, like, to be out in the country and have our own space, and we have chickens and ducks and dogs and cats and like everything. So we wanted some space, and we love it, but we just didn't know how soon it would be, right? So then we moved over here. We ended up renting our old place. That because the interest rate was so low, and because we bought our house for $175. About a month later, the house next to us, this is the previous one in town, sold for $250.
Okay.
It had been renovated, but very little bed. So like within a month, like our house like was about worth more, and then once we renovated it, actually probably worth more than what their house was worth. So we are able to rent that house for $1,800 a month. People stay there for 2 years. Now we have another set of people that are staying there still, $1,800 a month. So, but our mortgage is $780 for that house. So like we're doing really good.
Yes.
But again, we didn't just go buy any house.
Right.
We could have bought a nice new build. We don't have to do anything, right? But that eats off your margin. Not that you can do business like that as well. But I'm handy. I like to do things with my hands. My stepdad also, works construction. So he was able to come help me. I paid him for that. But I'd rather make. They always say that, like for real estate is location, 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 and you make your money when you buy it. Meaning that if you buy the house at the right time and right price, that's going to determine in 5, 10, 20 years how much money you've made. If you overpay for a house now, it'll bite you in the butt later, right? So for us, we're like, okay, we've got to find, let's just say usually the rule of thumb is you want to find the least nice house in your neighborhood.
Okay.
Right? And then, because it can only go up, the price can only go up from there, right? If you buy a castle among like, like cardboard boxes, it's not going to be worth, it's not going to go up from there. But if you buy a shack within castles, it can only go up from there.
That's right.
Right? So it's like, we always looked at like, okay, what's kind of like the least, the not nicest example of the house in a neighborhood that it's good, right? So, because then we can just do some modifications, and then the price is going to go up. If you buy a really nice house in a not undesirable neighborhood, and the house is like above what that neighborhood calls for, your margin is not going to increase. No matter if you put a pool in a neighborhood that nobody has pools, you're not really going to get your return on investment on that pool, right? If you are in a neighborhood where every house has a pool, and you put a pool in, that whatever you spend on the pool, you're probably going to get that return back whenever you sell the house.
Right.
So it's always like, that sort of game. Again, not everybody's handy. Not everybody feels comfortable, using skill saws and table saws and all these things, right? Or just knows what to do, or has the time and desire. Like, my wife, she helped me with it. She does not care for construction. She's like, I just rather work an extra shift or just like clean and cook and like do other stuff. But like, she does not necessarily care for it. I love it. Like, I just love it. I will wake up at like 6 a.m, go work for a couple hours on the house, go to work, like do that all day, and then like at 7 p.m. after I would get out of work, go straight to the house and then work till like 11 p.m. And I did that for like a month. Like, but to me, it's like, I just like doing it. Like, I enjoyed it. I just took extra food to work. So I would just eat all my meals at work, and then I would just work early in the morning and work late at night, and just so I could get it done, so I wouldn't have to pay someone else to do it. Because again, we're trying to be as cheap as we can, so we can make our money go further. The more we get into this, of course, we start to get busy, but now we're also starting to have a little bit more money, so we can afford to be like, hey, someone's toilet stopped working, like I can go fix it myself. But like, I'm planning on going on vacation with these people. Like, am I going to stop my vacation? So I'm going to call someone. I'm going to pay the couple $100 for them to come and take care of it, right? Whereas like a couple years ago, I'd be like, no, I'm going. I'm doing it myself. And you have to realize that there are times in your life when you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your like fun and like your time to save a buck. Once you sacrifice enough, eventually it's the turn of reaping the reward, sowing, the fruits that you have planted, right? It's like, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And the problem is people will see where we are now and say like, oh, you guys have 4 houses and cars and this and that and like all these things and a big acreage and a fireplace and a boat and whatever else, right? I want to have all that. I'm like, cool, great, you're 20 years old.
Right.
Nothing wrong with wanting to have that, but don't get into debt to get like, I'm going to buy a boat, $60,000. I'm going to put 0% down and pay $2,500 a month for the boat. And then I'm going to buy a truck for $90,000 so I can tow the boat once a year to the lake.
Right.
And, then I'm going to buy a camper that I'm going to use, for a weekend a year. And it's like, because they want to have everything that someone else has. But it's like, no, like we worked really hard to get here and we sacrificed a lot.
Yes.
Right. To get where we are. And even now we're not living it up.
Right.
Like, we still eat, like, it's interesting because we go to work, we bring our like food from home, right? And we make good money. And like some of our assistants that make way less money than we do, and we love them. They, we could not work without them, but they're going out to eat every day. And I'm like, people, you cannot get any farther out in life if all you're doing is spending the money that you make that day. You make $100 a day and you're spending $50 on food.
Right.
You still have to pay rent. You still have to pay other bills. Like, it's going to cost you $5 for the food that you cook at home to eat all day. It's going to cost you like 25 or 30 or 50, depending what you get in like a Starbucks and so, it's, you have to know that there's sacrifice and there's also a lifestyle, like we don't just not eat out as much because it's expensive, but also because it's healthier to eat at home, right? So we just eat out at home. We eat out at home more. Once in a while, we go out to eat. It's a treat. It's fun, on Friday we went out to that sandwich place in Slow.
That's
and it was
right.
really good. I mean, like it was awesome. Like, but it makes it so much more special when you're not eating out every day.
Right. And that was so neat because I drove to visit you and Amy here in Lemoore and all the way from Slow. And
on Thursday night.
And then they said, guess what? We're going to Slow to surprise
like
Bianca for her birthday.
Yeah, our dance teacher, yeah.
And then we got to go to this great restaurant. What was it called again?
It was High Street Deli.
Oh, I loved it.
Slow.
Now I was a tourist in
your own town.
In my own town. And then I went on my first hike there, Bishop
Peak Trail, yeah.
Yes, and that was a great workout, and so it's great. So then we came back.
Yeah. So I mean, but my point is like, if you were to eat out every day and you go to Starbucks and you go to like Subway and you go to Chipotle and you go to all these restaurants around, would that be any as special as it was?
No, it wouldn't, and it does taste so much better and healthier when you're able to take the time to make it at home. I know we all had leftovers for breakfast today. I love leftovers, and it's so nourishing. And you and Amy are incredible cooks and chefs.
Oh,
so
praise God.
I mean, I felt spoiled. I would rather eat your guys' cooking than go to any other type of restaurant. I love it. And I've been cooking at home more myself, meal prepping, taking my meals to work. At Costco, with my Costco membership, I've been getting a lot of pre-made salads, avocados, hummus, and then you're able to just,
open it up and
open it, bring it to work, and it tastes really fresh, and it's a good deal. And I've noticed I've had more clarity since eating this more healthy way at home, and I've saved a lot of money on grocery bills, which is awesome. So I am so proud of you guys for investing early on into your future. You mentioned house number 4.
So after we moved here, we were here, moved in, July of 2021. Okay, so mind you, in a year and a half, we bought 3 houses, all 20% down, right? And then by April of 2022, we bought our 4th house. We went to see it. This is during the craze. I mean, people were seeing houses. If they're asking $200,000, people are offering $250, $280, $300. I mean, people are just going crazy. So we had some money saved, and we just saw a couple houses. We're like, maybe, And then we saw this one house. Like, let's just go check it out. Like right when they posted. So we went and checked it out. It's like looks good. It has good bones. There's gonna be a couple of things that need to be fixed on it. They're asking $225,000, and at that point, mortgage rates were somewhere between 4.5 to 5%. So they had already gone up. And we talked to our lender. They're like, okay, you need to put, since we already have this many houses, you need to put 25% down, and then you need to have 6 months of mortgage payments for each one of the houses. So it was a big chunk of cash. So I think we had to put about $60,000 or so. Plus we had to have another $40,000 in the bank. So it's we had to have $100,000 in the bank, right, to do that. We looked at the house and we're like, okay, we're not gonna offer anymore. If we were gonna offer $225,000, no stipulations. So I did my own inspection, but again, that's because I don't recommend for most people to do it unless you are really confident about your knowledge of what could be. And again, even general inspections can miss things, but if you are not 100% comfortable on what everything you should be inspecting, pay for a general inspection, pay for a termite inspection, pay for a roof inspection. Look, even if you don't get a house because they discover something, even if you pay those things 3 or 4 times, by the time you buy your house, you'll think, I just spent $5,000 in inspections over 3 or 4 houses. It's money well spent. Because if you were to buy a house and let's just say you need to change the roof in a year, that roof is going to be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Right. So, and if they tell you that ahead of time, you either don't buy the house or you can negotiate that into the price. So most of the time, based on the market, you may be able to negotiate that whatever they find in the inspection down, right? My sister bought a house. They're asking, I think it's $270. She did an inspection, and they're about $30,000 worth of small things that needed to be fixed. And she was able to get the house, not quite for $240, but she got it for $250. So about $20,000. Yeah, she paid a couple $1,000 in inspections, but she got $20,000 off, right?
Totally worth it.
She had to say no to another house because of some of the things, but again, you spend some money. But so for me, I felt comfortable that I'm hey, I know what I'm getting into. I knew I will have to replace the roof sooner or later. I knew it. I saw it. I'm okay, the roof, I don't know if it's gonna have a year or 2, 5, but it's gonna be replaced. So I'm making the offer based on I'll need to put a new roof in, right? So we just told them $225, no questions asked. Only stipulation was for the bank to appraise it at that value, meaning that they're just going to give us the loan. We weren't willing, because what some people were doing, let's just say someone asked for the house $225, but they offer $300,000, but then the bank says no, this house is only worth $250, so I'm only going to give you $250. So you have to put another $50,000 on top of your 20% if you want to buy the house. And people were doing that left and right because they're like, just going crazy. They're like, this is the last house on earth. Oh. Like, there's going to be no more houses on this earth. You know, like, people are just bananas. So we just said, as long as the bank, you know, appraises the house to 225, we'll take it. But no other inspections or anything else. So we'll just take it. And they're like, yeah. You know, they had gotten some higher offers, but they just didn't want to deal with it, you know, because people wanted to do inspections and do this and do that. And let's check, you know, so we're like 30-day closing. We have the cash, you know, like, I mean, we didn't do cash, but we had the down payment, and then our lender was very fast. We work with someone who's, you know, charges a little bit more, but they just get, I mean, if you want to close in 7 days, he'll probably get it done. Like, you just, like, as long as you have your paperwork in order, he'll get it done, right? So, okay, 30-day closing, no questions asked, as long as the bank approves the loan, we'll take it. And they're like, okay. They had a couple of higher offers, but they just took caution. We're like very surprised because, again, at this point, that time, people were going 20, 30, 50, $80,000 over asking, because my sister was trying to buy a house with us at the same time, and she would like make like 10% over asking like offer, and people were offering like 30-40% off. Wow. So we're just going crazy, like, you know. So we're like, okay, well, it's meant to be. So we bought the house, cleaned it up. I think it was only like, it took us 3 weekends. It was just Amy and I just went in, painted. Well, again, nothing crazy. It was mostly just painting and cleaning it up and just fixing a couple small things. And then we rented it out, and it's been good. You know, we had a couple different tenants. One of my tenants calls me one day like, "Hey, Emilian," very, very nice. And we love them. We're so sad that they had to move out. But it was a good thing. They bought a house, so we're very happy for them. You know, they're like, "We're so sorry we have to move out. We love having you guys on landlord." No. You bought a house. That's the best thing you can do for your family. Yes. Like, I'm not sad about. Like, I'm sad because we lost them, but they're good people. They're like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. We were gone for the weekend, but we came back and the roof is like blown off." Oh. So again, this is a year and a half after we got the house. So again, we knew that this was going to happen sooner or later. It's California, never rains, and you know, but it happened. So, you know, had to call someone. They had to come and take care of it. And yeah, it was $10,000, but we knew that. We bought the house knowing that's what was going to happen. So, you know, but he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "No, it's not your fault. You didn't bring a storm," you know. So, but you know, praise God, we had the money, we fixed it, and the house is good. We have new tenants in there. They're so far so good. We're not worried about them. They're paying everything on time, so it's good. You know, like if we don't hear from the tenants, it means it's a good thing. You know?
That's awesome.
But yeah,
one question that I have is, let's say you have a tenant that decides someday not to pay rent. Are there laws in place that protect landlords over this?
Yes. So there's this is all going to be state by state based. So, you know, there are going to be states that are more tenant friendly, you know, the terminology, or states that are more landlord friendly, right? Meaning that there are states, and one of them being California, that tenants, you know, they're protected more, which is great because we want everybody to be protected. I was a tenant once. I would not want my landlord to take advantage of me. But on the other side of the coin, whenever you give too many protections for one side or the other, people can abuse it, right? So if you give too many protections for a tenant, they can stop paying, they can start destroying your house, and it could take you quite a long time to evict them, right? So I would say probably in California, probably take you about 6 months to evict someone, maybe depending 6 months to a year to evict them from the time that they stop paying. And then of course it's going to be like court and stuff like that, but there are companies that do that, so you just pay them, it's a flat fee, and they just kind of take care of all that. But you know, it's the justice system, so it just kind of moves, you know, at its own pace. There are other states that are a lot more landlord friendly, which is of course great for landlords, because, you know, if something happens, you can probably get a tenant out within, you know, days or weeks, you know, a few weeks. But, you know, then in those states, I mean, the landlord you can have the slum landlords, and like, just they don't just take care of the property, and they're like, "Oh, you don't want to be here? Well, get out." You know, like, "I'm not gonna give you your money back." And they're like, the tenant can be very like unprotected, right? So it's a very tough balance, because every time, you know, the legislation makes a law, like, you know, most of the time, not all the time, you know, I know politicians can be crazy, but most of the time they're trying to solve a problem. Hey, we've seen this. There are multiple tenants that they were getting screwed by their landlords, so let's just put this protection in place. But what's the flip side of that? How could a tenant take that and weaponize it? Right. But on the other hand, hey, we've had tenants that have been very destructive to landlords' properties? How can we avoid that? And then you put a law in place, but all of a sudden the landlord can use that to like be mean to the tenants, right? So I don't know, where the laws fall and all that. For me, it's like I'm here, I'm in California, I'm not moving because of it. So I just have to factor in that it's not if, but it's when. Every long-term landlord at some point, and maybe even multiple times in your lifetime, they'll have a tenant that does not want to pay. Not that they just don't want to pay, but they may destroy your house.
Wow.
And that's just that. And you have insurance for it, right? You have landlord insurance, but not everything is going to be covered. Our pharmacist where we work, he has also a couple rental houses, and just about a year and a half ago he went through this. It was about 6 months or so, and took him to get him out, and the house was very, very destroyed, windows broken and walls cracked and things cut, and just so it took many tens of thousands of dollars to fix that. Yes, they had insurance, not everything was covered, but you have to pre-plan that when you're buying houses. That's why it's important for you, like how many months do you want to have of just mortgage? Let's just say this person stops paying. First of all, you want to make sure that your house doesn't get repoed by the bank, right? So you want to continue, but you're going to continue paying the mortgage, even if your tenant is not paying you. The bank doesn't care that the tenant is not paying you. You still have to pay them, right? So you have to stop the bleeding. So at least you got to continue paying the. It is easier, of course, if you have a high-paying job, right? Amy and I, we have pretty high-paying jobs, okay? We're not rich by any means, but we make good money. We're blessed to make good money. What that means is that by us living very frugally, we could still pay all our mortgages from just our salaries, right? But even so, we still have a lot of money saved in case tenants decide to stop paying, or in case they decide to destroy the house, right? So it is very important, but there are companies that take care of that. So don't have to be too terribly, how do I say it, too terribly like stressed about it. As I said, it's not if, it's when.
Right.
Every landlord goes through it at some point, sooner or later. But there are things that you can do to mitigate that, right? So you can use property management companies for them to rent out the house for you, right? So like they go through the tenants, they look at their backgrounds, they look at their credit history, they look at their rental history, they call the previous rental places and check, did they pay on time, how did they leave the house, you can do that on your own. So far we've been doing it all on our own. So we have usually we've been doing it through Zillow. So you put your house out for rent on Zillow and people can apply through there. So we don't do a paper application just because first of all, I don't now want to be in charge of people's like social security number and stuff, and then have someone accuse me like, oh, you took my social security and you used it, right? So I don't get any of the information. There's a fee, they have to pay for it. So for landlords, it's great because we don't have to pay anything, right? So like they pay, I think it's like $30 or $40 for application. It sucks, I know, especially when you're having to apply to 20 different places and you have to pay those fees. Like, I'm sorry, I wish it would be free, but people have to understand as landlords, we also have to look at the credit history and I don't care as much about the credit score because I've had people with a really low credit score, but if you look at it, it's because they don't really have a credit history.
Right.
So if, for me, someone that doesn't use credit is almost like a better tenant than someone who like uses it a lot and their credit score is low. Like right, they have a lot, they're on a lot of like collections and all these things. So when people are like, oh, what's your credit requirement? And I tell them it's not about just the credit score itself, it's how's your credit history. Or let's just say, hey, for many years I was a terrible person with credit and with debt, and I just bought everything and never paid it, right? But that was 5 years ago. My credit screwed up for that, but you can see in the last 5 years I'm trying to pay down my debt. I'm not accruing anymore. So if I look at the credit history, I'm like, you're right, 5 years ago that stopped. So then I'm gonna take that into consideration, even if your credit score is like 550 or 600 or 650. Be like, okay, I can see a change in pattern, right? And then if I can call your references and your previous landlord, and everybody's like, yeah, they're doing great, then I may still rent to you, right? Of course, we all love the 800 credit score and stuff, but you may have people with great credit that may still not care to take care of your house, but I just look at patterns, and then they'll do a background check and they'll do a eviction history check. And then they have to input their incomes, where they get their money from, how much they they get, how often, all that. In California, a new law came a couple years ago that if they get help from the government to for housing, right, like Section 8 or some other type of incomes from there, you cannot discriminate against that. Okay, so that you have to be very, very careful. And I mean, first of all, you shouldn't discriminate for that. People are in different financial situations. I know my grandma was using Section 8 to pay. I mean, she was getting, she was 90 years old, getting $900 from the government. Where would she be able to rent a house in Southern California for like less than that, right? So she was using Section 8. It's a government help for it. So it's you can't discriminate based on where the income comes from. So if it's from some sort of welfare program, Section 8 or Social Security, something, you cannot discriminate by law, which is good. Those laws are good. That's how they protect the tenants, because you can't be like, oh, I'm not going to hire anybody that is on, and I'm not going to rent to anybody that is on welfare, because you're trying to keep bad people out. But the reality is, those people, sometimes they have even more of an incentive to take care of your house, because there's really not that many low income houses. Like, everybody's trying to have a house that rents for $5,000 a month, and guess what? Most people can't afford that. So there's very few houses and apartments that are cheap, and the people that live in there, yes, they may be low income, maybe they may be on security or on disability or something. They're probably going to want to stay there for a long time, because guess what? They're not going to find another place. So a lot of times, in my experience, they tend to take care of the house because they don't have another place to be. So I wouldn't be very afraid, contrary to popular beliefs. People are like, oh, just rent to people who are higher class. Contrary to popular beliefs, I think that there's not a much higher risk on renting to someone who has a lower income level, or that they're on disability or anything like that, because a lot of times they need that house to be there, which means that they're going to take care of it.
Yes.
Again, there's exceptions to every rule, but I would just look more on their patterns. So credit history, eviction history, call multiple people, like their references, and either their bosses or other people, just to confirm that what the story that they're telling you. You have to be very careful, because in California, it's like, they can sue you for discrimination, either racial discrimination, gender discrimination, income discrimination, right? So I think if you just are a good Christian, right, and you just take it like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Then I don't think there's anything for you to worry about, right? But if you kind of like, oh, well, this person is a different ethnicity than I am, and then you're just like, you create biases in the back of your mind because they're just different than you are. Yeah, that's messed up. Like, you may get sued for that. Like, and maybe you're not doing it consciously, right? Like, maybe it's an unconscious bias. Like, you're just like, well, this person is just like me, so I'm just more comfortable with them. But why are you more comfortable? Just because they're white, or not, like, So you have to think, okay, am I having any inherent bias?
Right.
Right? So you have to eliminate that. And that's why sometimes people use management companies, because then you're out of the equation. So at the end of the day, they'll just say like, hey, this is who we think we're going to rent to, and then they're just going to present a couple options, and they take a lot of those possibilities of you making bad mistakes and like discriminatory mistakes, and then you're less likelihood of someone coming and suing you for it, right? So you just have to be careful. But I think it comes back to, if you try to be a good Christian and try to not discriminate anybody based on anything, and you just like look at objective factors, I think you'll be okay.
That is good insight.
Yeah.
What would you say is your advice for saving for property taxes in California?
So I mean, property tax to me is like, I don't even think about it, because it's on your mortgage.
Okay.
Right? So whenever you buy, very few mortgage companies, you'll have to pay your property taxes aside. So it's called, you have an escrow account within your mortgage. So let's just say that your actual mortgage payment, which is just your principal and your interest, let's just say it's $1,000, right? And then on top of that, they're like, okay, we need into the escrow account, let's just say another $200 a month for insurance and for taxes. And usually those are paid once a year or twice a year. So they'll just, every month, they're taking that $200 a month, putting it into, it's called an escrow account. And then every 6 months or every year, whenever those are due, then they take that money out. And then the next year, they're going to reevaluate, okay, did the taxes go up? Did they go down? Did the insurance go up, or did it go down? And then they're going to reevaluate your mortgage payment. It's only going to change very little bit, because your interest isn't changing. If you're getting a 30-year fixed or a 15-year fixed, that's not changing. And your principal, like, all that stays the same. The only thing that could change is a little bit your insurance and your taxes.
Okay.
So, on something that you're paying $2,000 a month, it may go up or down by $50 to $100 max, right?
Okay.
Just based on new legislation, or like if there's a bunch of earthquakes or something like that, that like maybe is going to affect a little bit, but I don't have to worry about it, because every year you get a new, like, hey, from January 1st, your, mortgage is going to be $1,895 instead of, $1,850. So then you just pay your mortgage, and then they take care of the rest. So you don't have to. You will receive a tax payment at home, well, a tax bill at home because they send it from the county, but your bank takes care of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, like, I would say probably 90 to 95% of banks do that, and the reason being is they're trying to protect their asset. This house is not mine until I pay it off. It's the bank's.
Okay.
Right? So if I don't pay my taxes on the house, the county can take the house, sell it because I didn't pay the taxes, and then the bank is left with nothing.
Oh.
So the bank is like, no, we'll make sure the taxes get paid. So we're gonna put it within your mortgage,
Okay,
right?
I see.
So 90 to 95% of the times, the taxes and the insurance is gonna be within your what everybody calls a mortgage payment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is good.
Yeah.
And then, do any of your homes have homeowners association or HOA fees?
No.
Did you do that intentionally, picking homes without it, or would you be open to buying one with a HOA fee someday?
I struggle. I struggle because if you get bored one day, go on YouTube or on your favorite podcast and type like HOA, horror stories, and it will just be, you'll go from like story to story to story of how this, a lot of these HOAs, they like, don't let you park your car in the driveway or whatever stupid things may be. And it's just because some of the rules are like outdated rules, or there's like, let's just say, I know there's one in Florida, they don't allow trucks to be parked in the driveway. Trucks. The reason being that HOA, they didn't want like service trucks, old, rusty, because they wanted just to be nice. So if you wanted to park your truck, you would have to park it inside the garage. Well, some of the new trucks, you can buy like $150,000 truck. It may be much nicer than this person's, like, whatever Geo Metro that they're parking in their parking spot that is like, $300 from the junkyard. But so this guy's $150,000 truck, he can't park it on his driveway because the HOA is like, because it's a rule. And the problem with laws is that it's indiscriminate of, it's not common sense. Right? You can't just be like, well, your truck looks nice enough, but the next door's neighbor's truck looks terrible.
Right.
So we're gonna find him, but not you, right? So then that's where you would have to change the legislation, whatever. But point is, like, this person is like got like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of fees, and they had to go to court and all these things, and they're still not solved. And it's been like a couple of years, right? Not every HOA is like that. We have multiple friends that live within HOAs. They love it. They keep the area clean. We go there, visit. They have shops and parks and pools, and it's like there's great things about it. Another great thing about it is that whenever you have a tenant living in an HOA, you're not always the mean person. So if you tell them like, hey, let's just say that you don't pay for gardening, that's part of their duties. Let's just say, and you can choose that based on, how you want to set up with them. Like, hey, I'm going to pay for someone to come, or no, it's your duty to take care of mowing the lawn. If they're not taking care of it, you can remind them like, hey, it's HOA guidelines for the lawn to be taken care of. So you have to do it. If not, you're going to get a fine. Okay. So all of a sudden, you're not the bad person.
Okay.
Right? So there are good things. Hey, it's HOA guidelines that you can have, a car missing wheels on your driveway and oil running down and like, all these things and like beds on the roof and whatever, right? So like all of a sudden, like you can use those guidelines to be like, hey, it's not us, it's the HOA. Right. And if they send us penalties, they're gonna go to you, okay. Right? So it can be a benefit, but it can also be a drawback. If you live in an HOA or you want to buy an HOA, you better comb through the HOA handbook.
Yes.
Because there are some old, outdated bylaws that maybe nobody enforce them. Maybe nobody will say, like, let's just say like the truck thing. Maybe nobody cares, and maybe nobody says. But what if you have a neighbor that is just like, I will not have a truck parked in the next door, right? And then they complain. Guess what? If it's a bylaw, and someone complains about it, they have to uphold it unless they change the bylaws. And to change the bylaws, you have to have 70% of the whole community saying yes. And you're never going to get 70% of people to say anything. You could ask 70% of people if they like sugar, and you're going to have someone say no. Like, it's just like, you're never going to get anybody to say, like, 70% of people to say yes to anything, right? So you have to look at those bylaws, because some of them say, like, you can only paint your house these colors. But then, like, you look and those colors are discontinued. Like, you know, like, or you can only do this. You cannot have curtains that cover the main, like, there's, and I'm saying these are true, certain HOAs will have certain things that, like, anything that can be seen from outside of the house, like, if you have your curtains open, has to be X color. And you're like, wow. You know, so as long as you read and understand those bylaws and you're okay with those rules, I think it could be a great option. But always remember, you're paying dues, right? So is it just like, we have some friends, they pay like $30 every couple months, right? And it's mostly just because they have a security car driving around. We also have some friends that they pay $200 a month in HOA fees. We have some friends that pay way more than that because they live in a very nice gated community and they have, like, you know, spa and they have all these things, right? So it just depends. Do you get enough benefit from those HOA fees to be okay with paying that HOA fee, right? And if you don't, then maybe look elsewhere. For us so far, around here, where we are in Lemoore, there's only a few places that have HOA fees. The price range where we're looking at, they were not HOA type of places. So it was an easy decision. We just didn't buy in them. But I wouldn't be 100% opposed to it, but I would definitely be a lot more cautious, just because I would really have to read through it, and we know how I feel about reading. I hate reading, so I know you girls love it, but like I don't like reading. So if I have to sit and read a whole manual, whole stack of just like jargon to understand what it says, I may not be terribly happy about it. But I'm not 100% opposed to it, and I don't think people should be 100% opposed to it. But you can just, whenever you buy a house, if it is within an HOA, they ask you to sign a document saying, I have read and agreed to the bylaws. And I can be, you know, like, sued for anything that is, right? Once you sign that paper, it doesn't mean nobody cares if you didn't read the bylaws. Because you signed that, that whatever is in there, and if it says in there that your firstborn child may be named, you know, whatever, that you know what I mean? Like, you signed it. You sign your name, it's like, you know, blood oath. Like, you just have to, right? So you have to read it, even if it's your own personal home. And if you're okay with it, that's great. Like, as I said, we have multiple friends. They love living in their HOA, and we love visiting them. It's beautiful, right? You just have to, like, for me, I could never live in an HOA. I have 1,000 cars. Do not think my neighbors would love my half, like, pulled apart cars with, like, engines hanging in the air and, like, stuff like that. And again, that's not, and I understand, if I were a neighbor that it was, like, all clean and neat, I maybe wouldn't like someone having, like, 20 cars in their backyard either. So I understand, I'm not judging people, but that's why I live in an 18-acre property outside of the city, and I don't live in an HOA. But if you love neatness and cleanliness and uniformity and everything looking great and the grass mowed to, like, you know, perfect millimeter, you know, like, length, an HOA may be the place for you. And, you know, and maybe that's where you're the happiest, you know?
These are all great insights, and for all of us to think about. I'm sure our listeners have follow-up questions for you. Maybe it's about being a PA, or about your hobbies, or about how to get into investing in homes. How can they connect with you?
So my name is Emilian Grigore. So my Instagram handle, I believe, is Emilian Grigore 91. You can find me Emilian Grigore on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel. I don't really post, so, you know, I have some videos. Go ahead and look at them. You know, I have some me singing, some racing, but nothing crazy. But any of those, you can just send me a personal message. I'll, you know, usually get a response. I hate having those notifications on my phone that I have unopened messages. So if you message me, I will most likely respond, because I'm pretty OCD when it comes to that. If you have questions, or if you live in the area you want to meet, you know, as long as I can make it work, I'm more than happy to do that.
And Emilian, what is one way that we can echo eternity or encourage others?
I think kind of like what we were talking about earlier is if you live a true Christian lifestyle, you don't have to say you're a Christian. So last night we were talking with with Patty, our dance studio owner, and she said like, I always go by, what would Jesus do? And it's like such a cliche thing, right? But it's like, if we always do what a good Christian would do, we don't have to say, have you met Jesus? Do you know who Jesus is? Here's a Bible. Not that any of that there's anything wrong with it. Right. We need to do that at times. Mm-hmm. But I've had many people come to me and tell me like, hey, there's something special about you.
Yes.
Like, you know, are you a Christian? What's going on? Right? And like, I never had to mention it to them. Right? But yes, living just every day, living your life like a Christian. But my life motto, and my wife knows this, is no dull moments. So just anything through my life is just, I want to have fun, just not allow even the most mundane activities, I just want to have fun doing them. And like, tractoring around and mowing the grass or like tilling the ground or whatever, I'm just going to have fun doing it. Going to work, I'm just going to have fun doing it. But putting things in my pathway that sometimes I have to jump over, almost like an obstacle course, to just make life more interesting, so like, sometimes, just having those little things that you have to go around, is a lot more fun than just going a straight line, and mm-hmm. So it's just, having a car that is not the newest and greatest thing. Sometimes like things happen and you're kind of like, for me, it's just a passion to just, have to fix and clean and do, and and it just keeps me motivated to just keep going and do it. So just no dull moments for me. That's what we have on the back of our boat, and that's kind of my life motto: no dull moments.
Love that. Yes, when you get to meet Emilian and Amy, you will know that there are no dull moments with them, and being around them, you just it gives such a vibrant joy to me and everyone. So please meet them someday. It's just been an honor to have you on the podcast, Emilian.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us film this in your beautiful home.
Oh, no problem.
For sharing your wisdom with us, and for being such a go-getter, and for seeing the big picture, investing in you and your beautiful wife's future, and for all the things that you do to support our community of friends in beautiful California.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
Just so honored.
Thank you.
To have you guys in my life. Thank you
Awesome.
For being here today.
Also, guys, do you want a part 2? Do you guys want to do this again? If you do, write it down in the comments, yes. Send a message, because, I know we're going to hang out more. She has a lot more people to interview, but, it'd be cool to do it again. I had a lot of fun.
Yes.
And maybe next time we can maybe switch the roles, and maybe I can interview Hannah for a change.
Oh, wow. All right. Let's try that too. Let's do a part 2, and we'll have Emilian interview me, and write your comments or leave what you want us to talk about in the comments.
Sure.
So tell us a topic, or if you want us to go deeper into any of the topics that we covered today, we would love to do that. And thank you for being so willing, Emilian. And I can't wait to interview your friends here.
Of course.
Too.
And also, guys, please go on the comments and then ask for Pastor Abbott's part 2. We've been all waiting. It's been 8 months. You guys find him. He's in New Mexico. If you guys are there, go to his church.
Yes.
And ask.
Yes.
We're begging you for a part 2.
Yes, my pastor dad is still gathering his availability to.
You can't leave us, Pastor. You can't leave us with a cliffhanger like that. Part 2. It's been so long.
Yes.
I'm talking to you. You know who you are.
Yes. Part 2 on, wasn't it spiritual abuse? Was the topic? Yes. Part 2. It must come. Season 2.
Yes. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. This was lovely.
See you next time, everybody.